In this video series, we're looking at AI and covering some of the key things that you need to know. Last time we looked at some practical applications of large language models, such as summarization, question and answer, and information extraction. In this video, we'll continue with a few more examples of tasks that LLMs are suited to. First up is content generation. So LLMs are great at answering questions and performing tasks with existing content, but they're also very good at generating new content and brainstorming ideas. This can be really useful for getting you started with some creative pursuit, whether that's a blog post or a short story. Even if the output of the large language model isn't perfect, it's often a good starting point that you can either modify or use as a source of ideas. Another great application of this is getting an LLM to write code or documentation for you. All you have to do is tell it what you want the code to do and the language to use. Again, the output might not be perfect, but it's probably going to be close enough that all you have to do is make a few final tweaks. Next up is content restructuring. So this is another application of LLMs which blends both comprehension and creativity. You give the LLM some content and ask it to perform some sort of alteration. Maybe you have some rough shorthand meeting notes that you want to turn into a nicely worded recap email for a client, or maybe you've got some code that's a little bit ugly and needs some refactoring. Reworking existing content into a different format can be frustrating and time-consuming for humans, which is why it's a great task to give to an LLM. As a developer, you can also use this ability of large language models to turn unstructured text into structured output, so JSON, CSV, YAML, things like that. Last up, we've got teaching a skill or subject. LLMs that are designed to be used in chat scenarios are obviously great at having back and forth conversations. This opens the door to some really interesting applications, such as having the LLM teach you a skill or subject in an interactive fashion. Rather than getting the LLM to explain something to you in one go, you can tell it you're interested in a particular subject and then have a long-running conversation with it where it gradually teaches you about that subject. This can be a much more engaging way of learning than, say, reading a book, and it allows you to focus in on anything that you're particularly interested in or confused by. This can be a much more engaging way of learning than, say, reading a book, and it allows you to focus in on anything that you're particularly interested in or confused by. So in this way, an LLM can act as a sort of teacher or study buddy. Great, so in this video, we've looked at a few more examples of tasks that large language models are good for, such as content generation, content restructuring, and teaching a skill or subject.